Welcome everybody to this webinar. My name is Leroy Sillier from Laminate Solutions. Today's webinar is about getting ready for reporting with MFSQL Connector. It starts off after a new vault or the vault has been connected with a new database, so a new installation, and you have verified that the connection is valid and that the installation has been completed. And you can do that by using at the settings in the configurations tab. What we're going to do is we will be using a standard MFSQL demo vault for sales, and you will notice that this has a number of objects that we can use for showing reporting. So the first thing that you want to do to get started is to decide on the classes or the information that you want for reporting, because the key is that you need to transfer the information from MFSQL to SQL, and for that we need to know what is it that we're going to look at. So for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to look at the opportunities, and I am going to compare it with the accounts so that I can report on the opportunities for each account and the statistics around that. Now that we know that what we want to use for reporting, I can go to SQL Server. So if I open my SSMS, I have my new database. After the installation, you will notice that there is a whole range of tables, procedures, views, and other elements that has been installed in this database that is specifically linked with the vault that we have created. Note that this system is pretty much empty. It just has the structure in it. So to get going, there is a very special procedure to start off with reporting. Now we've tried to make it easy for you by adding a set of example scripts that you can use. So these example scripts are available in the installation folder, and we've selected to install into the default folder, which is Program Files 86. You should find a Laminate Solutions, Release 4, and a folder for the specific database that you are working with, and we're going to use Reporting Demo. So if I go into that, there is some example scripts. I can click on that, and this gives us a whole bunch of different examples for different applications that you can use, and it has a real value for you to effectively get started. Easy way to get what you're looking for is just to type a keyword into the search screen, and there we can see there is a example script for setting up the reporting. So if I open that, I can see that it's actually quite simple. All that I need to do is I need to use this scripting, and I need to put in the class names that we want to use. So I'm going to replace this customer with account, and I am going to replace that with opportunities. Now, just important to have it correct, so let's just go back to MFSQL to see whether it is opportunity or opportunities. It is opportunity. So put that in and execute that. If we execute that, what it would do is a number of things. On a first installation and setup, it's going to check that we've connected successfully to the vault, that the license is valid, and it is now going to pull all of the metadata structure from M files into SQL so that that structure can be used as a part of the setup and also for the control of all of the underlying procedures and operations that is taking place. When you are making changes to the structure, it is important that the metadata need to be refreshed, or the structure need to be refreshed, and there's procedures for that, which at this stage is built into this SPMF setup reporting, but you can also get those procedures separately in some of the other examples. If I look at this is being completed, and there we can see that what it has happened is it started up, it connected to the vault, it synchronized the metadata, it created the class tables, and it actually created some lookup views for the system, and finally it set up the context menu and it enabled user messages. But let us survey a little bit further to understand better what has happened. First of all, let's go and look at the metadata structure. If we want to start to look at the metadata structure, it's always a good place to start is to start with the listing of the classes. So if we do that, we can say select star from MF class and press F5, and what that will give us is it will give us a listing of all the classes in the vault, plus the table names that it is going to assign to those classes, and also a bunch of other information which I'm not going to work through at this point in time for reporting purposes. In the same way, there are also other structure tables like properties, like value lists, like workflows, and a good way to explore the structure of the vault is to use a view that we've created which brings all the structure together, and that is called the metadata structure view. So if I look at the metadata structure view, I can see it gives me the structure from various angles. So if I want to see a particular dimension for it, and I say where class is account, I can see all the properties that is in account class on the metadata card. I can see the columns that will be in the table for account. I can see whether there are any value lists that is associated with those properties. I can also identify whether there is a workflow associated with this table, which there are not, and also what is the data types that is involved in that particular class. I want to look at where a property called country is used throughout the vault. I can see that country is actually used 3 different classes. In that way, you can actually navigate through the structure in the vault from various angles and get a better understanding of how the vault fits together, and what you are using, and which naming conventions you've used, and so forth. So it's a fantastic tool to do further exploration of the vault structure. So the first, what has happened is that we've pulled through the vault structure so that we can use it. But what does its main use? Its main use is so that we can actually create a class table. If I do a refresh on my tables, I will see that I now have a account table. And this is the table that was created for accounts based upon the metadata structure in the system. And if I look at all of the columns, I can see that it has created the columns for the class table based upon the structure, and it has created all of the data types and everything for you. what is very important to note when we get to lookup columns or lookup properties, like for instance, let me go back to country again, and that is that country is effectively a multi-lookup. The way that I know it's a multi-lookup is because it has 4,000 characters in its varchar, but it has both its ID as well as the label for the country in the table. If I look at a single lookup, say for instance the modified by, then that smaller data type, or just 100 characters in the label. You can learn more about these tables, the views, and how to refresh the metadata after you've made some changes, again using the examples. So you are getting started, there are some guidance to it. I would encourage you to use that, but at the moment we are purely looking at reporting and setting up reporting. So we assume this metadata structure is stable and we can actually start to do reporting from that. We've created the class table that we want to report at, and let's go and have a look at it. If I now go and do a select on that table, and I can see all of the different fields that I have available, but it's empty. Why is it empty? Because MFSQL Connector is based upon the premise that you push and you pull by providing specific instructions to actually fetch data from M files or push data to M files from SQL. The range of capabilities around this push and pull is vast. There are a range of different considerations to take place, but in its raw basic form, you can use a simple statement to pull the data. So we can go and say execute SPMF update table, and I'm just going to give the name of the table. Now I want to remind you that when we looked at the class table earlier, you would have seen the class name, which was account, and there was another column which said the table name, and this is MF account. So this is how it determines the name of the table, but we can also see there that it has created MF account. This statement needs the table name, not the class name, and to get the information from M files is a 1, and this is the update method, and to push information from SQL to M files is a 0. So now that we have prepared our statement, we can press F5 to execute the statement, and what it has done is it has now go and fetch the information from M files. There we are. So you can now better see the countries, for instance, is that you have both an ID as well as the label for the country, and therefore it is quite easy to do a report just based upon this table. So if I just want to get a listing for the accounts in a report, it's quite easy. So if I do something like using my select statement there, I'm just going to modify that a bit. And we're going to say I want to see a name or title, and I want to see the country, and I want to see the city. For the account, I can do that, and there is my listing that I can have for my report. Now, this is extremely simple, and the reporting has much more than just a pure listing of information from a single table. When we created the original script for setting up the reporting, we've used two classes, accounts and opportunities. So I am in the first place expecting to see a MF opportunity table. There we are. That table has also been created. So you can specify a number of tables simultaneously. If you want to create an additional table, you could also just rerun this with a new class. I would recommend that you don't try to create the whole Vault's class tables for reporting in one go in this comma delimited string. Keep the comma delimited string to let's say a maximum of 10 items to create simultaneously, otherwise you will find that the procedure actually falls over. There is another way. When we updated the MF account table, we used this execute SPMF update table method to update it. However, there's a different way. Setup reporting store procedure, it also created a capability in mfiles to update the data. When updating the class tables, it is important to connect with it that depending on the number of records in the class, you should take into consideration that a large volume of records in a class could take some time to replicate or to pull from mfiles to SQL, and there are also different procedures to use for different scenarios. The best way to understand that is again to go to our examples, and you can get our dealing with large volume updating by just typing in large, and we can look at all the different procedures for using large volume of data. In this query, what I've done is we've highlighted the usage of the different types of procedures. Like for instance, this is the full spectrum of all of the different parameters for SPMF update table, and we've just used the top two in our previous example. If I scroll down, you'll see that we talk about SPMF update table with last modified date. This is a different method of just getting the updates from the last modification date, which could be very appropriate for reporting. Or if you want to make sure that you do a full-scale updating of all of the deleted items and of a large table, then you should use SPMF update mfiles to MFSQL. And then finally, what I recommend is that you actually use this SPMF update table in batches when you have a large table and the initialization of a large table. So I'm going to illustrate this SPMF update table in batches with our opportunity table. Now you can actually use this you don't have to use it just for large tables, but we can actually use it for even a small table like opportunities. And the key thing here is to set it up so that you know how many object IDs are there in the vault. Maybe the easiest way to illustrate how to get the number of object IDs for a particular class or object type is to go back to mfiles, and let's quickly set up a view on these segments. So if I create a new view, and we'll just say class segments, and we say that we want to look at my opportunities, that will give us an indication that there is a maximum of 1,000 items in the opportunities. I can now go back and I know which is my maximum to use there. I can execute that instruction, and then what it will do is it will do two things. it will actually create the audit batch processes for all of the objects, and then it will actually update the batches in a series, and it completes the integration for each one of those batches. It would also identify any differences. So if I actually run that again, then you'll see that what it will do is it will identify that it will go through the audit process again, but it have now identified that there is nothing to update because it is actually verified against the audit that those items has already been updated, and it is much quicker to do that. If I use now something like my procedure for updating all, so if I go and I copy that part and just put it in there, and if I run this procedure, it should actually be quite quick because it knows that the last update date in the vault has been in June 2016. This vault has been updated, or this class has been updated in the vault. So let us look deeper into how to automate the updates of the tables in MFSQL Connector. So this is achieved in the first place by using the context menu functionality of MFSQL Connector. So what this a context menu functionality is all about, this is the ability to call a SQL action from M files, and this is controlled by a table in the database. So it is called MF context menu. So let's do a select on that table and have a look at the table. Select star from MF context menu. And if we execute that, then we see the entries that the setup reporting has created for you in this table. In the first place, the user group ID of who has authorization to use this particular action in the from M files, the name of the action, but most importantly the procedure name that will be called if this action is being clicked upon in M files. To make it easier for you, what we have done is to set up a sample procedure for you to allow you to see how to call and how to work with a procedure that has been called from M files into SQL. So let's have a look at this procedure. First of all, the parameters are quite important. So it need to be exactly this, use exactly the same parameters. There are different types of procedures. So this one in particular is for a asynchronous non-context sensitive call, and you can not only call a function for a specific, only for one or two purposes. You can actually have a wide variety of different operations that you can perform using this action method. However, in this particular case, what we are going to do is we are going to execute a underlying procedure called SPMF update, all included in app tables. And what this procedure will do is it would update all of the tables that has been marked in the MF class table as being included in the app. And it will do those updates by only updating the differential. So only the records that has changed since the previous update will be updated, and therefore you can call this as many times as you would like. Now let's go to M files to show you how this actually works on the MFSQL side. Let's open the Vault. On installation of MFSQL Connector, a new item on the task menu is added, and when you click on this item, it would open the MFSQL Connector menu. This menu is highly configurable, but the setup reporting has already added an entry, as we've seen in the SQL table, for this particular action. So if we execute the action, then it will give us a message as a warning, and the moment that we press OK, the underlying operation is being performed. Now in this case, it will call the procedure that would update all the tables that is included in the app. Let's go and have a look at the setup of the security for the context menu. In the first place, it is dependent on the context menu user group. The context menu user group and the entries in this user the users or the user groups in this menu will determine who can see the menu in its totality. So if you do not have users or another user group in this context menu, you will not be able to see the item. You could use the same user group to also determine that these are the same people that can actually perform the individual operation. So if we go and have a look at our context menu table, then on a row by row basis, we can either set a common group like the context menu group, and in this case it has ID 275, or you can set up individual groups for each individual action for the people that can access the particular action in the context menu. So let's illustrate how the changing an item in MFiles will work its way through the system to be updated in the SQL table. So we now in MFiles, and we access a account that we would like to go and update. So let's change the address to a new address that we are changing. This is standard MFiles stuff. Let's save the item. Let us execute the update to update this metadata change into SQL. So we execute our procedure, and now after we have said OK, the update procedure will run and in the background and update all of the tables. Remember, it only updates the differential, so it's not doing a full refresh of all of the data. If we now go back to SQL and we look at our table again, and we look at our accounts table, then we can see that the item that we have just changed, this is the item, and the address has been changed on this item. So this brings us to the end of the first part of this basic setup of reporting. Feel free to contact us at any time. You can find our contact details as part of the QR code, and we are looking forward to answer your questions or to help you further to set up reporting and get started. The next video that will follow is a video that goes into much more depth in terms of the more advanced features, some of the alternatives, and other things that you should take into account when setting up advanced reporting.